Hey everyone, welcome! Today we are jumping right into an explainer on resources and development. We're going to break down everything you need to know to absolutely master this chapter. So let's get started.
Here's a quick roadmap for today's lesson. We'll start with core concepts, move into resource classification, tackle the resource crisis, dig into land and soil, test ourselves with a chapter Q&A, and wrap it all up with a rapid-fire revision.
All right, Part 1, Core Concepts. Let's figure out what we actually mean when we throw around the word resource. So, the really important thing to grasp here is that a resource isn't just stuff lying on the ground. To actually be considered a resource, it has to pass a specific three-part test. First, it has to be technologically accessible, meaning we need the tools to reach it. Second, it must be economically feasible, so it makes financial sense to extract it. And third, it has to be culturally acceptable. Think about it. If there's a rare metal buried 50 miles underground, but we literally don't have the drills to reach it, or it would cost $1 trillion to mine, it's just not a resource yet. Now, here's a question you're very likely to see on an exam. Do you think resources are just free gifts from nature, just sitting there waiting for us to walk up and take them?
Nope, they definitely aren't. Humans have to actively transform materials. It's kind of a three-step process. We interact with nature using technology, and then we build institutions to accelerate our economic development. We are the essential ingredient here. Without human effort and intelligence, all those things out there in the environment just stay raw materials.
Moving right along to Section 2, Resource Classification. How exactly do we categorize all these different things?
Geographers use 4 main buckets to classify resources, which gives us a super organized way to look at everything from solar energy to ocean waters. Let's break them down. First is origin. Is the resource living, like a forest, which we call biotic, or non-living, like rocks, which is abiotic? Second is exhaustibility. Does it replenish, like the wind, or will it eventually run out, like fossil fuels? Third is ownership. This spans all the way from your individual house to community parks to national minerals and even international waters. And finally, status of development. This just tells us if we have the technology to use a resource right now, or if we're keeping it as a reserve for the future.
Which brings us to Section 3, the resource crisis, and the very real dangers of using too much, too fast.
Because humanity kind of treated resources like an endless buffet, we're now facing some massive ecological problems and a really deep divide between the rich and the poor. Satisfying the greed of a few has led to severe depletion, and that means resources are just accumulating in the hands of a small percentage of people, splitting society right down the middle into the haves and the have-nots. On top of that, this reckless overexploitation is directly driving major crises like global warming, ozone layer depletion, and widespread land degradation.
So what's the fix? Well, it's a concept you've probably heard before: sustainable development. It's the idea that we can totally grow our economies today, but we absolutely cannot do it at the expense of tomorrow's world. It's all about balance, right? We want to maintain our current quality of life while making absolutely sure our children and grandchildren still have the resources they need to thrive.
To put this into action, picture this. It's 1992. Over 100 world leaders gather in Brazil for the historic Earth Summit to sign Agenda 21. Their goal? To combat environmental damage, poverty, and disease on a global scale. It was this monumental turning point, a declaration of shared responsibilities where every local government across the world was tasked with drawing up its own sustainability agenda. All right, let's bring it back down to earth with Section 4, Land and Soil.
Let's look at the numbers. Data from 2019 to 2020 shows that India's forest area is sitting at around 23.41%. Now, that is alarmingly lower than the 33% target outlined way back in the 1952 National Forest Policy. So while about 45% of the land is net sown area, meaning it's used productively for agriculture, our actual forest cover is seriously lagging behind what we need to maintain a healthy ecological balance.
Now, if you're looking at alluvial soil in river valleys, you absolutely need to remember this classic comparison for your exams. Older Bangar soil is packed with what we call conker nodules, making it a bit coarse. On the flip side, Kadar is the newer soil. Because it's continuously renewed by river floods, Kadar soil is incredibly fine, fresh, and super fertile.
Time for Section 5, Chapter Q&A. Let's see what you've learned.
Question 1. What is the main cause of land degradation in Punjab? Is it A, intensive cultivation, B, deforestation, C, over-irrigation, or D, overgrazing? Take a second to lock in your answer.
Did you guess it? The answer is A, intensive cultivation. Constantly pushing the land to produce crops without giving it time to recover severely depletes the soil's nutrients. This is exactly the kind of unsustainable practice we were talking about earlier.
Okay, let's try one more. In which of these states is terrace cultivation practiced? A. Punjab, B. the plains of Uttar Pradesh, C. Haryana, or D. Uttarakhand?
It's D, Uttarakhand. Because the terrain there is so mountainous, farmers literally cut steps or terraces into the hillsides. This slows down the water runoff, traps that precious soil, and actually allows farming to thrive in a super challenging environment.
And finally, Section 6, Rapid Fire Revision. Let's lock this in. Take a mental screenshot of these absolute must-know facts. For the resource rule, remember, tech accessible, economically feasible, culturally acceptable. If it fails one, it's not a resource. For Agenda 21, associate it right away with the 1992 Earth Summit for Global Sustainability. And for soils, just remember, Bongar is the old, coarse soil full of conker nodules.
To wrap up, I want to leave you with a real brain teaser straight from the textbook. Imagine if the global oil supply just completely dried up one day. How would your daily life actually change? Think about it, discuss it with your friends. It's exactly why sustainable development isn't just some boring vocabulary word, it is literally the blueprint for our future. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep up the great work, and I'll catch you in the next one.